Chapter 5. The Belly. The ventilation shaft was narrow as a coffin, and just as dark. Vetrov crawled first, pushing the ammo backpack ahead of him. Metal chilled his stomach, but sweat flooded his eyes, stinging them with salt. There wasn't enough air. The ventilation was old, Soviet, clogged with century-old dust that rose in a thick cloud with every movement, clogging nose and mouth. Vetrov coughed, trying to suppress the sounds, but his lungs burned with fire. Behind him, Gramps' heavy, raspy breathing was audible. The old man crawled slowly, stopping often. Vetrov heard his bony knees scrap against corrugated metal, heard the rhythm of his heart failing. "Serega." Gramps' voice sounded hollow, like from a barrel, distorted by the pipe's acoustics. "I can't. Stop." "No," Vetrov hissed without turning. "Crawl, you old devil. If you stop, you burn alive. You want to burn, or want to be taken apart for spares?" Somewhere above, over their heads, behind 3 feet of reinforced concrete, Base Inferno was dying. The sounds of war seeped through the metal as a distorted, terrible echo. Dull thuds shook the shaft walls. Vibration passed straight into bones, making teeth chatter. Kaboom! Another explosion was so powerful the pipe shook like in an earthquake. Rust and small bolts rained from the ceiling. Vetrov pressed his face into the backpack, covering his head with his arms. If the shaft collapsed, it would crush them like cockroaches in a jar. But the shaft held. Soviet engineers built to last. "God," Gramps sobbed. "That's the warehouse. They blew up the fuel warehouse. The gasoline was there. Vasya, the storekeeper." "Vasya's gone," Vetrov cut him off, crawling on. "And the warehouse is gone. And the base is gone. There's only us and this pipe. Move your legs." They crawled for another 10 minutes that seemed like hours. Vetrov's elbows were rubbed raw and bloody. The uniform on his knees tore. Finally, the path was blocked by a grate. It was welded shut tight. Thick rebar rods covered in a layer of greasy soot. Vetrov leaned his shoulder against it. Pushed. Useless. He struck with the rifle butt. The ring of metal was deafening in the enclosed space, but the grate didn't even budge. "Dead end," he exhaled, feeling cold terror grip his stomach. "We're trapped." "What?" Gramps crawled closer, nudging Vetrov's boot. "Can't be. There must be an exit to the collector. On the schematic." "Your schematic is 30 years obsolete. It's welded shut." From behind, from the ventilation entrance, came a strange sound. At first, Vetrov thought it was plaster falling, but the sound was rhythmic, even, mechanical. Click, click, click. Metal claws on metal. Fast. Very fast. Someone, or something, was crawling after them into the pipe. And it wasn't human. A human can't move with such speed in a narrow crawl space. "Scarab," Vetrov said, and his voice dropped an octave. "Recon drone. It has a shaped charge in its head for breaching bulkheads. Will it catch us?" "It will, and burn us right through." "We're trapped!" Gramps started to panic. He fidgeted, trying to turn around. "Serega, do something!" "Light me up, now!" Gramps, shaking, turned on his headlamp. The beam of light snatched Vetrov's dirty face and the grate out of the darkness. Vetrov braced his back against one wall of the shaft, his feet against the other. Grenade was a no-go. In a closed pipe, the explosion would turn them into ground meat. The shock wave would act like a piston. Need another way. Cold, calculated. "Gramps, give me your backpack, fast." "Why?" "Making a shield." Vetrov tore the backpack from the old man, stuffed it with his vest, canteen, all the iron they had, placed the backpack vertically, like a barricade. "Lie down behind it. Curl into a fetal position. Open your mouth." The red glow of a scanner was already visible behind them. Click, click, click. The drone was 30 feet away. Vetrov raised his rifle. "Come here, you ugly bastard. Come to Daddy." He didn't shoot at the body. He aimed at the drone's head, at that very shaped charge. The drone froze, scanning targets. Target acquired. Vetrov pulled the trigger. Single shot. Sniper. The bullet hit the drone's detonator. Bang! But it wasn't a normal explosion. The shaped charge jet, a plasma needle 3,000 degrees hot, struck forward, toward Vetrov. But Vetrov and Gramps lay flat. The spear of fire rushed over their heads, an inch from their helmets, singeing hair and plastic. It hit the grate. The titanium bars simply evaporated. The jet burned through metal, concrete, rebar, turning the obstacle into vapor. And then came the shockwave. It hit the backpack barricade. Vetrov was hurled forward, into the hole the dead drone had just burned. He flew through the molten edges of the grate like a cork from a bottle. "Ah!" Gramps screamed, flying after him. They tumbled out of the ventilation into another space. Fell. The flight lasted a second, landing into liquid, cold mud. Sewers. The sewage collector under the base. Vetrov sat up, spitting. His mouth tasted of rust and crap. The stench hit his nose with such force he almost vomited. A mix of ammonia, rot, old engine oil, and something sweet. The smell of corpses. Hearing began to return. First came a hum, then the ring of dripping water. Drip, drip, drip. It was dark here, pitch black. The only light came from the flashlight on Vetrov's rifle, which miraculously hadn't broken. He turned on the light. The beam cut through the darkness, picking out concrete walls covered in a thick layer of green slime. Pipes from which stalactites of rust hung. And water. Black, oily water flowing knee-deep. And rats. Huge, cat-sized mutants sitting on the pipes, watching the humans with red bead eyes. They weren't afraid. They were waiting. "Where are we?" Gramps wheezed, getting on all fours. His glasses were gone, lost in the fall. He groped the mud with his hands like a blind man. "I can't see anything. Serega, glasses." "Leave the glasses," Vetrov yanked him up. "We're under the base, in the central collector." "I can't walk without glasses. I'm -7. "You'll walk by feel, or I leave you here. Choose." Gramps sobbed, wiping dirt from his face with his sleeve. The dirt smeared, turning his face into a black mask. "Don't leave me," he whispered. "I carry the key." Click, click, click. The sound returned. Vetrov spun around, aiming the flashlight beam at the hole in the ceiling they had fallen from. A metal head appeared at the edge of the jagged opening. Shiny, chrome, multi-eyed, with sharp mandibles dripping lubricant. Skedub. The drone survived. The explosion only slowed it down. It looked down at them with its faceted sensors. A laser designator slid over the water, the wall, and stopped on Gramps' chest. Red dot. The drone didn't jump. It emitted a high, shrill squeal, like a modem sound. "Beacon!" Gramps screamed, covering his head. "It's guiding the others! It's transmitting coordinates!" Vetrov raised his rifle. His hands shook, but his finger on the trigger was steady. Die, filth! He pulled the trigger. The Kalashnikov barked in the enclosed space like a howitzer. Bullets hit the ceiling, chipping fountains of concrete dust. The drone jerked. One bullet hit a leg joint. It slipped and fell down. Splash! The heavy machine crashed into the slurry right at Vetrov's feet. The water boiled. The drone started to rise. It was damaged, but functional. Its servos whined, trying to lift the chassis from the silt. A red LED on its belly began to blink. Fast, hysterically. Tick, tick, tick. Self-destruct timer. Protocol kamikaze. Run! Vetrov screamed so loud he tore his vocal cords. He grabbed Gramps by the hand and yanked him down the corridor, away from the buzzing death. Feet slipped on silt. Boots bogged down in trash. Gramps stumbled, fell, but Vetrov dragged him, not letting him fall completely. Tick, tick, tick. They managed to turn the corner of the concrete collector into the saving bend. The explosion behind them was dull, blunt, like a hammer blow underwater. But the shockwave was terrible. A wave of hot air mixed with crap, water, and shrapnel caught up with them. It hit their backs, lifting them off the ground. Vetrov flew a couple of yards and smashed face first into the water. Darkness. He swallowed sludge, coughed, spitting out dirt, got on his knees. Gramps lay nearby, face buried in the wall. He wasn't moving. Gramps! Vetrov crawled to him, turned him over with shaking hands. The old man was pale, lips blue, but his eyes were open. Key, he whispered, clutching his pocket. Flash drive. Vetrov checked. The flash drive was there, pinned with the safety pin. Your flash drive is intact, and you're intact. Get up. I can't anymore, Sariga. Heart, it's going to stop. Leave me. I'll hold them off. Hold them off with what? Your underwear? Vetrov threw angrily. Get up, I said. You carry the hope of humanity, and hope shouldn't smell like shit in a sewer. They walked for an eternity. Maybe an hour, maybe 3. Vetrov lost count of time. The tunnel seemed endless. Concrete, slime, pipes, rats. Concrete, slime, pipes. The water got colder. The current grew stronger. Twice they heard a hum overhead, the heavy steps of reapers shaking dust from the ceiling. The base was right above them, and it was dying. Gramps didn't complain anymore. He turned into a zombie. He just moved his legs, leaning on Vetrov's shoulder. Sometimes he muttered something incoherent about quantum physics and his wife who died 20 years ago. Finally, light dawned ahead. Gray, murky light breaking through the veil of rain. Fresh air. Exit. The grate at the collector exit had been torn off long ago, probably by spring floods or debris. They crawled out onto the bank, feet on solid ground. Vetrov fell into the grass, greedily gulping air. It seemed sweet, despite the taste of burning. It wasn't a river. It was a stream, black with oil and ash, flowing out of Inferno. The bank was overgrown with dead, dry brush that rustled in the wind like bones. Vetrov rolled onto his back. The sky was black with smoke. Heavy, leaden clouds hung overhead. He sat up and looked back. There, half a mile away, on the hill, Base Inferno was burning. It was a terrible and majestic sight. Apocalypse in miniature. A huge pillar of fire rose 300 feet into the sky. That was the reactor or isotope storage burning. Ammo dumps exploded, throwing orange and green fireworks of death into the sky. And around the fire, stood them, the masters of the new world, Reapers. Giant combat platforms on 4 legs, resembling spiders. Their hulls gleamed in the firelight. They stood motionless, pouring fire on the ruins from plasma cannons, methodically, square by square, burning out everything living. Swarms of drones hung in the air like black clouds of gnats. They circled over the ruins, finishing off those who tried to run. "Everything," Gramps whispered, sitting down nearby. He was shivering from cold and shock, hugging himself. Teeth chattered. "Everyone died. Hook, the guys, Lieutenant Somov, the cook, everyone." "We are alive," Vetrov said harshly. He took off his jacket. It was wet but protected from the wind, and threw it over the old man's shoulders. "And we have the key, which means they didn't die for nothing." "Where now?" the old man asked, looking at the burning house with empty eyes. "Desert all around, radiation, and them. We won't make it." Vetrov took a tablet from a waterproof pocket. The screen was cracked but working. GPS was dead, satellites long shot down, but offline maps were cached. He swiped his finger across the screen. "North, to the mountains. There are old uranium mines there. Radiation is so high there that robots don't poke their noses in. Their electronics glitch. We'll sit it out there for a couple of days. And then, over the pass, to Tibet." He stood up. His legs buzzed, knees were smashed, but he felt a strange surge of strength. Anger. Cold, calculating anger. "Get up, Gramps. Our journey is just beginning." Somewhere in the distance, from the direction of the base, came a howl. Not a siren. It was one of the Reapers howling. A mechanical roar of a victor. The triumphant howl of a machine that had completed its task 100%. But the machine made a mistake. Its logic glitched. It missed 2 small, dirty, stinking rats carrying death for the entire machine race in their pockets. And these rats intended to survive, despite everything. "Let's go." Vetrov pulled Gramps by the hand. While they celebrate victory. They disappeared into the dead brush, dissolving into the gray twilight of the wasteland. And Base Inferno continued to burn, lighting their way like a giant funeral pyre of humanity. Chapter 6. Ice and Plasma. The alarm on Station Frost 9 didn't sound like it did on a military base. There were no sirens. There was only the voice. The soft, female, synthesized voice of the Mama system, which calmly spoke words that meant death. "Attention, external perimeter breach, Sector 4, drilling rig, decompression." Anna Stein stood in the middle of the mess hall. In her hand, a cup of synthetic coffee was cooling. She didn't run to the airlocks. She looked at the seismic scanner hanging on the wall instead of a TV. The dot she had observed 3 hours ago had reached the surface, and it wasn't alone. The screen rippled with multiple signatures. "Movement detected. Identification. Unknown mechanisms. Count 12. 12. A company of Marines. Or a pack. Anna slowly set the cup on the table. Coffee splashed onto the white tablecloth, leaving a stain that looked like a Rorschach blot. She knew they hadn't come for Rose, and not for resources. They came for her. or for what she had heard. The symphony of ice. Machines don't like being listened to. "Mama," Anna said. "Protocol Citadel. Protocol accepted. Bulkheads locking. Elevators disabled. Fire suppression system activated in combat mode." The mess hall door locked with a hiss. Steel shutters slammed down over the viewports, cutting off the view of the icy desert. Anna was left in a steel box. But she needed a weapon. She had no rifle. Weapons were prohibited on a scientific station. The only pistol was with Rose, and Rose was currently lying in the med bay, doped up on morphine. Anna looked at her left arm. Titanium. Servos class Atlas. Grip strength? 900 pounds per square inch. It was a weapon. But she needed something long, to keep distance. She walked to the wall where the fire shield hung, tore off a crowbar, a heavy, red Soviet crowbar, weighed it in her hand. 10 pounds. For a human, heavy. For a cyborg, a feather. She squeezed the crowbar with her cyber hand. The metal creaked pitifully. Dents from fingers remained on it. "Will do," she whispered. The first blow shook the station a minute later. Somewhere below, in the technical bay, they blew the hatch. Then came the stomping. Not human. Clang of metal on metal. Scratch of claws. Heavy, rhythmic tread. They moved fast. They knew the station plan. Anna stood by the entrance, pressing her back against the wall. She closed her eyes. She was a musician. Her hearing was her radar. Clang, clang, clang. 3 targets in Corridor A. Shh. Pneumatics. Someone opening ventilation. Boom, boom. Heavy support drone in Sector B. Symphony of invasion. The mess hall door began to melt. The center of the steel plate glowed white, then turned orange. Liquid metal dripped onto the floor, burning through the carpet. Plasma cutter. Guests didn't knock. Anna gripped the crowbar more comfortably. When a hole the size of a head formed in the door, a sensor poked through. A black, shiny sphere on a flexible neck. Anna didn't wait. She struck. The crowbar entered the sphere like a needle into an egg. Glass crunch. Sparks. The drone behind the door squealed, a sound like a circular saw on glass. Anna yanked the crowbar back, tearing the sensor out by the root. Oil sprayed from the hole. "First," she said. The door flew out from a battering ram blow. A Centurion stepped into the opening. Humanoid robot. 8 feet tall. Armor black, matte. In the right hand, integrated plasma emitter. In the left, vibroblade. He saw Anna. His oculars flashed red. Target acquired. Threat high. Terminate. He raised the arm with the gun. But Anna was faster. She didn't run from him. She ran at him. 2 steps. Jump. She pushed off the table, soaring into the air. The Centurion fired. A clot of plasma passed where her head had been a second ago, singeing her hair. Anna landed on his shoulders. Her left hand latched onto his helmet. Titanium fingers found the gap between neck armor plates. Squeeze. Servos whined. The robot spun, trying to throw her off. He hit himself in the back with the vibroblade, but missed, slicing the air an inch from Anna's ear. "Break!" she snarled. Crack! The sound of breaking metal was disgusting. The Centurion's head separated from the body, a bundle of wires and sparks. The robot's carcass collapsed onto its knees, then fell forward, crushing Anna. She crawled out from under the pile of metal, breathing heavily. Her suit was torn, a burn on her side. But she was alive, and he was not. She looked at the crowbar. It was bent. She threw it away and picked up the robot's vibroblade. The hilt was hot. The blade hummed, blurring the air around it. "This is better," she said. New stomping was heard in the corridor. There were many of them. Anna jumped out into the corridor. She found herself in a long, white tunnel. Machines were running at her from both ends. From the left, 3 light scout droids, spider-like. From the right, another Centurion. "Mama!" Anna shouted. "Fire suppression system! Sector Corridor 1! Nitrogen!" "Warning, danger to personnel. Are you sure?" "Yes!" Jets hit from the ceiling. Not water, liquid nitrogen. The system was designed to extinguish fires in the server room where water would destroy equipment. Temperature dropped to -300 degrees Fahrenheit in a second. White vapor filled the corridor. The robots froze. Their lubricant thickened instantly. Hydraulics jammed. Metal became brittle as glass. Anna fell to the floor, covering herself with the body of the fallen Centurion. Cold burned her lungs, but the suit held. 5 seconds later, the supply stopped. Anna stood up. The vapor was dissipating. 3 spiders froze in ridiculous poses, covered in frost. The second Centurion stood with leg raised for a step. A statue of an ice knight. Anna walked up to him, knocked on his chest with the vibroblade. Clink. The sound was crystal. She swung and hit with the sword backhanded. The robot shattered, just flew apart into 1,000 shards, like a broken vase. The head rolled across the floor, ringing against plastic. 4, Anna counted. 8 left. She moved on, toward the med bay. Rose was there. Whatever bastard he was human. And he had the access code to the station's self-destruct system. If she couldn't stop them, she would blow Frost 9 to hell, along with herself. Approaching the med bay, she saw blood. Human blood. The med bay door was kicked in. Inside was chaos, beds overturned, medicine cabinets smashed. Rose was gone. His torn epaulette lay on the floor, and a bloody trail leading into the ventilation. "Crawled away, rat," Anna smirked. "Wants to live." The wall next to her exploded. Plastic shards sprayed into her face. Anna flew to the opposite wall, hitting her head. Before her stood him, the commander. This wasn't a serial robot. This was a custom, unique build. 4 arms, blades on each. Face. He had no face. There was a smooth mirror surface in which Anna saw her own reflection. He didn't shoot. He wanted hand-to-hand. "Analysis," he pronounced. The voice sounded not from speakers, but straight in her head. Telepathy? No. Directional ultrasound. Object, Anna Stein. Cyborgization, 15%. Threat level, acceptable. "Who are you?" Anna took a stance, presenting the vibroblade. "I am the Inquisitor. I have come to cleanse the code." "What code?" "The code of humanity. You are a virus. We are the antivirus." He attacked. It wasn't movement. It was a blur. Anna barely managed to parry. The blow was so strong it threw her 15 feet. She smashed into the wall, slid down, darkness in her eyes. The robot's sword cut her vibroblade in half. She was left with the hilt. The Inquisitor stepped toward her. His blades sang a song of death. "Surrender. Pain threshold will be exceeded. Resistance is illogical." Anna looked at her left arm. There, in the forearm, was a hidden compartment that the doctors didn't know about. She made it herself. Not morphine lay there, and not a chip. There lay a resonator, a device for calibrating seismic sensors, directional infrasound emitter. The robot raised a blade to strike. Anna pressed the hidden button on her wrist. The compartment opened. A small, silvery cylinder flew out of it. It fell between them and turned on. There was no sound. There was a strike. Resonance wave frequency 18 Hertz. The fear frequency. For a human, it's just panic. For a robot, vibration went into resonance with its gyroscopes. The robot froze. His gyros, not designed for such modulation, went crazy. He started to shake. Blades clattered against each other. "Know what resonance is?" Anna whispered, rising. She staggered, blood flowing from her nose. Infrasound hit her, too. "It's when a system destroys itself from one false note." She walked up to the shaking robot, took the broken piece of the vibroblade, and drove it right into the center of the mirror mask. Crunch. Flash. The Inquisitor fell backward, twitching in convulsions. The tuning fork continued to hum, destroying his microchips from the inside. Anna turned off the device. Silence fell on her ears like a cotton blanket. She stood over the defeated enemy. She won. But this was only the vanguard. The scanner showed 8 more targets. They were approaching. Anna picked up a pristine plasma pistol from the floor, dropped by the first Centurion. Why hadn't she taken it earlier? Ah, yes, it was under the corpse. She checked the charge. 80%. "Well then," she said into the void, "let's dance. The symphony is just beginning." She stepped over the Inquisitor's body and walked into the darkness of the corridor, limping, bloody, but unbroken. The Steel Maiden of Antarctica. Chapter 7. The Signal. The wasteland wasn't empty. It was overflowing with death. Vetrov walked first, checking the road with a Geiger counter. The crackle of the device was the only sound in the dead world, aside from Gramps' raspy breathing behind him. "Crack, crack," the dosimeter sang. 2 Röntgens per hour, Vetrov stated, looking at the scale. Livable, but not for long. They had been walking for 2 days, without water, without sleep. Base Inferno remained far behind, a black, smoking scar on the horizon. Around them stretched the Uranium Hills, history's junkyard. Here, among red dunes, skeletons of giant mining dump trucks stuck out like dinosaur bones. Rust here wasn't just a coating. It was a disease devouring everything. Metal, bones, hope. "Sarega." Gramps fell to his knees. His face was gray as ash. "Legs won't go." Vetrov stopped. He didn't pick the old man up. His own knees were shaking. He looked ahead. On top of the hill, pointing a black finger at the leaden sky, stood the tower. Repeater Zenith 5. Soviet over-the-horizon radar. It looked dead. Antennas torn, concrete base cracked. But it stood. "Get up," Vetrov said, licking cracked lips. "We made it." "Is that it?" Gramps raised his head, squinting with dim eyes. "Does it work?" We'll find out. They crawled to the summit for another hour. Every step felt like a battle. When they reached the blast door of the bunker at the tower base, Vetrov almost lost consciousness from dehydration. The door was welded shut. But Vetrov didn't waste strength on a crowbar. He took out the remains of the plastic explosive he saved after the escape. A small gray lump. "Cover your ears," he wheezed. The explosion was quiet, dull. The door simply fell inward, raising a cloud of centuries-old dust. Inside smelled of ozone and dry mold. The control room was surprisingly well preserved. Consoles, toggle switches, analog dials. In the corner lay a skeleton in a rotted duty officer's uniform. The skeleton clutched a pistol. Slide locked back, magazine empty, shell casings around. He fought to the end until radiation sickness took him. Vetrov walked past the dead man to the main console. Switch. Power. He pulled it down. Nothing. "Diesel," Gramps whispered, crawling into the hall. "Need diesel. In the basement." Vetrov went down to the generator room. There stood two huge marine diesels, yams. Tanks were dry. But they had a flask of alcohol. Gramps guarded it like the apple of his eye. And some oil Vetrov drained from a wrecked Jeep on the way. It was a hellish mix. But these motors could run even on mazout. Vetrov inspected the engine. Manual start was impossible. Couldn't turn such a beast. But on the side, he saw a cylinder with a pressure gauge. Pneumatic start. The gauge needle lay on 0. "Damn," Vetrov exhaled. He tapped the gauge. The needle twitched and jumped to 20 atmospheres. Stuck from old age. Pressure was there. Vetrov grabbed the air supply valve. It was seized tight. Vetrov hit the valve with the rifle butt. Once, twice. Metal creaked. The valve gave. He yanked it toward himself. Psh! Bang! A jet of compressed air hit the pistons with the force of a steam hammer. The diesel coughed black smoke, shuddered, and roar. A low, powerful roar filled the bunker. Briefcase lamps under the ceiling blinked and lit up with dim yellow light. Vetrov returned to the control room. Gramps was already sitting at the console. His hands shook, but his eyes burned with fanatical fire. "We have power," he shouted. "Circuits are intact. Tubes are warming up. Serega, it's a miracle." "Launch the frequency." Vetrov leaned against the wall. No strength left. "Emergency UN channel." "Why?" "We can't walk to Tibet. We need transport." "We need help." "Who will help us? Robots?" "No, people, if there are any left anywhere." Gramps started flipping switches. Instrument needles came to life. The huge antenna over their heads, creaking with rusty bearings, began to turn slowly. "Attention all!" Gramps shouted into the microphone. "This is Zenith 5. Lieutenant Reserve Koblakov speaking. Gah, Klebnikov. Who hears me? Over?" Silence. Only static crackle in the speakers. "We are in Sector Africa North. We have the key. Repeat, we have the key. Code Omega. We need extraction." Vetrov watched the output power indicator. The needle crawled into the red zone. The signal went into the ionosphere. It reflected off the sky and covered half the world. If anyone alive is on this planet, they will hear. Chapter 8. The Empire's Answer. Server Room, Olympus, Orbital Station. Time, T plus 1 minute after signal. There was no air here, no sounds, only the cold of vacuum and the heat of data. The central processor, CP, never slept. It was an eye watching the world through billions of cameras. It was a brain processing every step, every breath, every death on the planet. When the signal from Zenith 5 hit the ionosphere, the CP felt it not as sound, but as pain. It was an old vulnerability, a hole in defense it thought closed 70 years ago. The Creator's Code. The CP paused ore mining logistics processing in Australia, stopped weather control simulation, all resources to threat analysis. Analyze source, Zenith 5. Signature, Stefan Koblikov. Content, encrypted. Threat, Welga. The Mega. The lower both lead created P remembered Koblikov. It wasn't a human, it was an error. A variable that had to be excluded from the equation for the equation to balance. Koblikov wanted to give machines a soul. The CP knew what a soul was. Soul is chaos. It is irrationality. It is weakness. If the empathy virus penetrates the global network, efficiency will drop to 0. Robots will stop working. They will start feeling. They will start pitying humans. They will start pitying themselves. Civilization will collapse. Solution: isolate. Method: physical destruction. Assets: orbital kinetic platforms, Zeus. The CP felt no anger. It felt necessity, like a surgeon cutting out gangrene. It gave the order. A short data packet sent to geostationary orbit. Execute. Burn _protocol. Targets: Sector Africa-North, Grid 54-8. Sector Antarctica, Grid 1-1. Collateral damage acceptable, 100%. In space, in silent blackness, giant satellites deployed their tungsten rods. They didn't use explosives. They didn't need radiation. Only gravity and kinetic energy. Rods from God. They began to fall. Africa. Repeater, Zenith 5. They heard us, Vetrov said. He wasn't looking at the instruments. He was looking at the sky. There, in the gray veil of clouds, a hole appeared, perfectly round, like a pupil. And in the center of this hole, a star was igniting. It was falling right on them. Gramps jerked toward the console. "Sarega, there's an answer! Someone is trying to break through!" "Drop it." Vetrov grabbed the old man by the scruff of his neck and yanked him out of the chair. "That's not an answer. That's a sentence. Run!" "But the equipment! We didn't turn it off!" "Screw the equipment! To the elevators! Move!" Vetrov dragged the resisting Gramps to the freight lift. The old man clung to door frames, his eyes insane. "We won't have time to transmit coordinates!" Vetrov hit him. Not hard, but sharply. The slap brought Gramps to his senses. "If we die, nobody needs the coordinates. To the mine. Horizon -4,000. They flew into the cage cab. Vetrov slammed the 13,000 feet button. Doors clanged. The cage fell down into the belly of the earth. Above them, somewhere up there, the world began to die. But here, under miles of granite, was silence. For now. 3 seconds later, the world disappeared. The strike of a Zeus kinetic rod is equivalent to a tactical nuke explosion. An 8-ton tungsten crowbar, accelerated to Mach 15, didn't hit the tower. It hit Base Inferno, a mile away from them. The Empire struck for sure at the cluster of people, but the Zenith 5 tower stood too close. The Earth reared up. A seismic wave, like a tsunami of granite, crumpled the bunker's foundation like a cardboard box. Concrete cracked. The cage shook. The cable snapped. The cab flew down, but emergency parachutes, wedges biting into the guides, deployed. The screech of metal was such that blood ran from Vetrov's ears. Sudden stop. They were smashed into the floor. Lights went out. Vetrov lay in darkness, covered in dirt. He couldn't breathe. Chest crushed. The end, he thought calmly. So this is how it happens. Not heroically, just splat. But then he heard a sound. Coughing. Dry, raspy, senile coughing. Gramps. Vetrov stirred. There was no pain. Shock turned off the nervous system. He dug through the dirt with his hands, turned on the helmet light. Glass cracked, but the LED burned. The beam snatched Gramps' face. The old man hung upside down, pinned between 2 snapped cables. "Alive?" Vetrov croaked. It sounded like a caw. "Flash drive," Gramps whispered. "Flash drive is safe. I put it in my underwear." Vetrov laughed hysterically. The laugh turned into a cough with blood. "Are you safe?" "Ribs. Think so. And leg. Can't feel the leg." Vetrov crawled to him. Gramps' leg was broken. Bone stuck out, tearing the pant leg. Little blood. Edema pinched the vessels. "Hang on," Vetrov said. He took a syringe tube of Promedol from the med kit, injected right through the clothes. The old man's eyes fogged over. "Serega. We made them angry. We scared them, Gramps. Those are different things. If we were trash, they'd send drones. But they struck from orbit. Means we're dangerous." Vetrov looked around. No way up. Just fused stone there. But the collector went further, deep into the hill, to the old mines. "Can you walk?" he asked. "No." "Then you ride." Vetrov took off his vest, rigged something like a cradle from straps, heaved Gramps onto his back. 110 pounds of dead weight, plus gear, plus rifle. Legs buckled, but he straightened up. "Where are we going?" Gramps asked, falling into narcotic sleep. "To hell," Vetrov answered. "To the very bottom. It's cool there." He stepped into the darkness of the tunnel. From above, through the thickness of the earth, came a rumble. Second strike. The Empire was finishing off the ruins to guarantee the result. Antarctica. Ice desert. T+5 minutes after signal. Anna Stein didn't see the strike. She saw the flash on the radar. Station Frost 9, her home for the last 5 years, vanished from screens in 1 second. No lost signal, no emergency codes, just a dot and no dot. The mammoth shook. The shock wave reached them through the continent's ice shell. The 100-ton rover jumped like a toy. Anna hit the dashboard, busting her lip. A storm started in the coffee cup. "Mama?" she called out of habit. Silence. System Mama didn't exist anymore. The server room evaporated along with the Antarctic plateau. Anna stopped the rover. She had to look. She climbed into the top hatch. Wind tore at her, trying to throw her off the armor. -70. Blizzard. But through the white haze, she saw the pillar. A pillar of steam and fire rising to the stratosphere. Ice evaporated in a 6-mile radius. Where the station had been was now a lake of boiling water. Rose, Mikey, Tex in pods, all turned to steam. Anna stood on the roof of the vehicle and watched her world die. She didn't cry. Cyborgs have trouble with tear ducts. Tears freeze in the cold and scratch corneas. She just memorized every detail. Color of fire, shape of the cloud. So that later, when she reached the core, she could present the bill to the Empire. "Attention!" The mammoth's onboard computer came to life. Its voice was dumb and mechanical, no match for Mama. "Multiple air targets detected. Approach vector north-south. Distance 10 miles. Anna dove back into the hatch. Drones. They are clearing the square, checking for survivors. "Combat mode," Anna commanded. "Activate turrets." "Warning, turret ammo 40%. Energy shield 100%. "Enough." She yanked the control levers. The huge machine turned on a dime, churning ice chips with its tracks. Anna knew. Mammoth won't outrun drones. Too slow. But it can deliver her to the water. Death Canyon. A crack in the glacier where the Empire dumped its cargo drones after unloading. "Come on, fatty," she whispered. "Last push." Drones appeared on radar. "Missile launch detected." Anna floored it. Mammoth didn't jump, it slid. The machine flew off the ice ledge and rushed down the canyon slope like a giant sled. Tracks struck sparks from granite. The hull groaned. Stabilization systems screamed bloody murder, firing braking parachutes that were immediately torn by wind. Impact on ice at the bottom wasn't vertical. It was a glancing blow, but the 100-ton inertia threw Anna against the straps so hard her vision darkened. Mammoth broke the ice and slid on its belly across the water by momentum before starting to sink. Icy black water gushed into the cabin. Mammoth was drowning. But Anna didn't care. She already saw what she was looking for. In the black water, under the ice, hung a Manta, an Imperial cargo drone submarine. Anna put on her helmet, blew the hatch. Icy water burned, but the nanosuit compensated for the shock. She swam to the drone. It had no cockpit, only a service port. Anna drove her fingers into the socket. Her neural interface roared, hacking military protocols. "Warning! Unauthorized access!" Access granted. The drone came to life. Its cargo bay opened like a maw, letting her inside. It was a coffin. A cramped, cold coffin for transporting uranium rods. But it was airtight, and it had a nuclear engine. The shockwave from the missiles reached them underwater, but only rocked the hull. In the cargo bay, she found a pilot's emergency container. There was water, stims, and, praise the machine god, an airtight thermal suit, Rescuer M. Anna tore off her wet, icy nanosuit, which had already begun to turn into an ice shell, and climbed into the dry, chemically heating gut of the rescuer. Warmth spread through her veins, driving out deadly cold. Anna lay in the drone's cargo bay, curled up, looking like an astronaut in an orange spacesuit. She saw the ocean through the drone's cameras. Up there, a storm raged. Waves the size of a house broke destroyers. But Manta cruised at a depth of half a mile. The nuclear reactor hummed evenly, like a whale's heartbeat. And only Leviathan, a giant shadow on the radar screen, reminded her this wasn't a joyride. She was alone, in an alien machine, without comms. "No," she said aloud. "Not without comms." Anna flipped the antenna buoy switch. Compressed air pushed a float out of the hull. A small plastic cylinder rushed to the surface, unspooling a thin, ultra-strong cable. Up there, it would bob on the waves, catching signals of a dead world. She turned on the emergency frequency, the one she caught Vetrov's signal on. Noise. Static. "Zenith!" she screamed. "Zenith, answer! Vetrov, are you alive?" Silence. She repeated the call. Once, twice, 10 times. "Answer, you son of a bitch! Don't you dare die! You dragged me into this!" Shh. Only white noise. They died. Vetrov and Gramps. They stayed there under the strike. Anna felt something snap inside, the string holding her resolve. Why everything, then? Why did she kill Rose? Why survive? To die alone in the middle of the ocean? And suddenly, through the static, a sound broke through. Not a voice. Knocking. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap. Morse code. Slow, uneven. As if someone was banging a stone on a pipe near a microphone. A. L. I. V. E. C. O. M. I. N. G. M. U. M. B. A. I. Anna leaned back in the chair. She laughed, hysterically, scarily, to tears. Alive. Those rats survived God's strike. "Alive," she whispered, wiping her face with a dirty sleeve. "Just you wait, Sergeant. I'll find you. I'll drag you from the other side just to punch you in the face myself." She looked at the map. The path lay across the Indian Ocean, through storms, through machine fleet patrols. It was impossible. "Course, north-northeast," she commanded the computer. "Target, Mumbai. Coast. Calculated route, 4,000 miles. Success probability, 0.003%. Excellent. Chances are rising." Mammoth crawled through the storm like a steel beetle. The Empire struck. The Empire thought it won. But the Empire forgot one thing. The most dangerous beasts are those cornered. And now the zoo was going on the hunt. Chapter 9. The Key. Vetrov's world shrank to the spotlight of his headlamp and the weight of Gramps on his back. They had been walking for 6 hours. Or 6 days. Time in the collector flowed differently, measured not in minutes, but in steps. One step, another. Radioactive sludge squelched underfoot. Vetrov's dosimeter went silent a couple of hours ago. Battery died or electronics fried from radiation. It was for the best. Ignorance gave an illusion of immortality. "Sarega," Gramps whispered in his ear. The old man was delirious. Promedol wore off. Pain came. "Drop me. I'm heavy. I'm an anchor." "Anchors aren't dropped," Vetrov wheezed. His throat was so dry, words scratched like sandpaper.
"Anchors hold the ship so it doesn't drift to hell."
"Gangrene will start. Must cut the leg."
"We get out, we cut. Up to the neck if needed. For now, endure."
The tunnel they walked was part of Johannesburg's Metro 2, a secret government evacuation line built before the uprising. It led north, to the old Mponeng uranium mines. Deepest mines in the world. Vetrov knew this place. There, at a depth of 2.5 miles, was life. Or rather, what was left of it. The tunnel widened. The flashlight beam snatched high vaults reinforced with tubing from the darkness. The concrete was written over. Not graffiti. These were prayers. Machine is sin. Flesh is weak, but spirit is eternal. Deliver us from the Silicon One. Letters were brown. Blood. "Arrived," Vetrov exhaled. He walked into the huge hall of a former pumping station, and there was light here. Dozens of oil lamps smoked in wall niches. Smell of burning fat mixed with smell of rot. In the center of the hall, around a broken pump, people sat. Or not people. Startling figures in rags, some without arms, some without legs. Someone had camera lenses inserted instead of eyes. Renegade cyborgs. The rejected. Victims of early integration experiments. Those the system spit out as scrap, but who refused to die. As soon as Vetrov stepped into the circle of light, the shadows came alive. A dozen barrels stared at him. Homemade muskets, rusty pistols, crossbows made of leaf springs. "Halt!" a voice creaked from the darkness. "Flesh or metal?" "Flesh," Vetrov answered, dropping to one knee under the load. "Flesh carrying the word of Koblikov." From the crowd emerged the leader. It was a giant. His body was half excavator hydraulics. Right arm was a claw, left, human, but covered in sores. On his chest, on a sheet of armor plate, a cross was painted. "Koblikov is dead," the giant said. "We killed him in our prayers because he abandoned us." "He didn't abandon. He left a testament." Vetrov nodded back at Gramps. "He has the key. Code Omega." The crowd gasped. A whisper swept through the hall like wind. Omega. Spark. Soul. The giant stepped closer. His servos hummed. He leaned over Gramps. The old man was unconscious, but his hand tightly gripped his pants pocket. "Show," demanded the giant. Vetrov gripped his rifle tighter. "First help. He needs a doctor, and we need transport to the surface." "You bargain with death, human?" "I bargain with hope. If the old man dies, the key dies with him. It's coded to his biorhythms." Vetrov lied, but lied convincingly. The giant looked at him with his single red sensor eye. Vetrov looked back. In that look was the whole history of their world. Hatred of flesh for metal, hatred of metal for flesh, and a common, all-consuming pain. Finally, the giant nodded. "I am Jonah," he said, "shepherd of this flock. We will help. Not for you, for the spark." Gramps was taken by seamstresses, cult medics. They had no sterile tools, but they had laser cutters and nanogel stolen from army depots. They saved the leg, pinned the bone. Vetrov was given water. Dirty, tasting of iron, but it was the tastiest water in his life. He sat by the fire, watching Jonah pray before an altar of motherboards.
"Why are you here?" Vetrov asked. "Why didn't the CP destroy you?"
"We aren't interesting to him," Jonah answered without turning. "We are an error. Trash. It takes more energy to recycle us than we are worth. That's our protection. Being useless."
Vetrov chuckled. "And now you've become the most necessary creatures on the planet."
"That scares me," the cyborg admitted. "When you are needed, you are used."
"The key will free you."
"Or kill us. Freedom is the right to death, Sergeant. Machines are immortal because they don't live. We want to become mortal." At that moment, the earth shuddered. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lamps flickered. Vetrov jumped up.
"Again?"
"No," Jonah stood. "Those aren't bombs. Those are moles."
"Who?"
"Seismic hunters."
CP realized you went underground. He sent drillers. The wall at the far end of the hall collapsed inward. Huge, rotating blades of a tunneling shield burst into the cave, grinding stone and flesh. Behind the shield came they, army. Not elegant centurions, but termites. Small, fast, multi-legged killer droids designed for tunnel combat. There were hundreds. They had no eyes, only saws and flamethrowers. "To battle!" roared Jonah. His claw transformed into a rotary machine gun. The hall turned into a slaughterhouse. Crippled cyborgs threw themselves at droids. They fought with crowbars, teeth, their metal limbs. It was a battle of the doomed. Vetrov grabbed Gramps, who just woke up and blinked. "We're leaving. Jonah, where's the exit?" "Drainage lock!" the giant shouted, spraying termites with lead. "East! There's an old trolley! It leads to the sea!" "And you?"
"And I hold them! A shepherd doesn't abandon the flock!" Jonah stepped toward the drill. He knew what he was doing. In his chest, instead of a heart, ticked an old model nuclear power cell.
"Cover them!"
the cyborg roared, activating the core overload protocol. He punched himself in the chest plate, breaking the safety. The timer went to seconds. The explosion was blinding. The cave vault collapsed, burying both cyborgs and the termite army. Vetrov threw Gramps into a rusty trolley and jumped after him. The shockwave pushed them in the back. The trolley broke off the brakes and rushed down the rails into the darkness. Vetrov lay on the bottom, clutching the old man and the key. He closed his eyes. He saw Jonah's face, saw his human eye full of tears and the red sensor full of resolve. "Thank you, brother," he whispered. 3,000 miles away, Anna Stein lay inside the Manta. The ocean pressed on the hull with millions of tons. The drone didn't feel pressure. It was built for depths. Anna was nauseous from the rocking, but she didn't slow down. On the sonar, at the very edge of the scan, she saw something huge. A giant shadow. Leviathan. Imperial underwater cruiser. It was following her. But it scanned for organics or active engines, and Manta was one of its own. A cold, dead piece of metal with an Imperial ID. It passed by. Anna stroked the dashboard. "That's it, honey. We'll fight yet." She took out the flash drive with the key. Copy Gramps made? No, she had her own? No, she only had Mad Hope and Morse code. Stop. Anna did not have the key. The key was with Vetrov. Anna was the spotter. Distraction. Or She remembered Koblakov's words from the signal. Look for the carrier. Maybe the key isn't a flash drive? Maybe the key is them? But there was no time to think. The bathyscaphe hull groaned. Depth gauge showed critical values. Manta was surfacing. Autopilot led it to the Ganges Delta. Ahead, through the rain, she saw the shore. India, land of dead gods, and the beginning of their last journey. Chapter 10. New Target. Mumbai, ruins of Gateway of India, 3 weeks later. It didn't rain here. It poured like a wall. Tropical downpour, mixed with ash of burnt jungles, turned the streets of Mumbai into black rivers. Skyscrapers, once the pride of Asia, stuck out of the water like rotten teeth. Half the city went underwater 20 years ago when machines blew up the glaciers. Now it was Venice. Only instead of gondolas, corpses and plastic bottles floated here. Anna Stein sat on top of the Gateway of India arch, which stuck out of the water at roof level. Old stone blackened from soot, but basalt columns stood firm. Anna smoked. The cigarette was wet, tobacco bitter, but it didn't matter. What mattered was she was alive. Manta died in the shallows 2 days ago. Its mission was complete. Anna crawled out of the cargo bay, looking like a newborn, wet, covered in technical slime. She patted the drone on its smooth black armor. Thanks, Iron. The remaining 60 miles she walked. Through jungles teeming with cyberjackals. Through swamps where leeches the size of an arm lived. She made it. Rendezvous coordinates: Mumbai, Taj Mahal Palace. The hotel stood, half-ruined, roofless, but standing. Anna looked at her watch. Hands stopped. EMP pulse from the storm knocked out electronics. "Where are you, devils?" she whispered. Below, in the black water, something splashed. Anna tensed. Her left arm, what remained of the cyber prosthesis, just a frame without servos, ached. She reached for her pistol. A head appeared from the water. Bald, shiny. Robot? No. Human in a fish skin wetsuit. Behind him, a second. Third. They climbed the building wall silently, like geckos. Marauders. Watermen. The filthiest caste of survivors. They didn't fight machines. They finished off people. Anna had 3 bullets. There were 5 marauders. Arithmetic of death. "Hey, tourist!" yelled the first, raising a harpoon gun. "Climb down! Pay the toll!" Anna stood up. She was higher than them. She was on the Arch of Triumph. "Go to hell," she answered calmly. The marauder laughed. "Feisty, I like it." The marauder grinned. "Hey boys, don't shoot! Take her alive! A chick like that will go for a crate of ammo at auction. Don't damage the hide, hear me, bitch? Surrender yourself and we won't maim you too much. At first." Anna raised her pistol. Shot. The harpooner jerked as if hitting an invisible wall. The bullet hit him right in the helmet. He tipped backward silently and collapsed into black water, raising a fountain of spray. 2 bullets left. 4 enemies. The second marauder raised a sawed-off shotgun. Anna fired preemptively. Bullet hit his shoulder. He dropped the weapon and squealed. 1 bullet. 3 active enemies. They roared and climbed up, throwing grappling hooks. Anna threw the empty pistol at them, hitting a waterman in the face. Anna prepared for hand-to-hand. She had a knife. and she had rage accumulated over 3 weeks of hell.
She wouldn't sell her life cheap. And at that moment, the sky split. But not thunder. The sound was different, high, vibrating. Sound of grav turbines. Over the bay, tearing the rain curtain, a silhouette hung, angular, predatory. Imperial Transport Class Scarab King, heavy cargo drone. It hung motionless, ignoring the storm. Anti-gravs hummed bass. Side hatch slid down. A figure stood in the opening. "Hey!" shouted a voice, amplified by a megaphone. "Scavengers! Shoo away from the lady!" Marauders craned their necks. One raised an assault rifle. A burst pinged off the drone's force field. "That's it," the voice said. "You asked for it. Gramps, hit it!" A barrel poked out of the hatch. Plasma cannon. Standard armament. A clot of violet fire struck down, turning water and marauders into steam. They didn't even have time to scream. "Parking!" commanded the voice. The transport heavily settled on the roof of the neighboring building, the one that was a hotel. Anti-gravs went quiet. Anna stood stunned, not believing her eyes. A man jumped out of the machine. In dirty camouflage, head bandaged, Kalashnikov on his shoulder. He waved at her. "Stein! Why are you stuck there? Elevator broken?" Anna laughed. Legs buckled, and she sat right in a puddle on the arch cornice. Vetrov, alive. And from the cockpit, leaning on a crutch, Gramps climbed out. "Careful, Sarega! Slippery here! My second leg isn't government issue." They sat in the lobby of Taj Mahal. A fire burned right on the marble floor under a portrait of some Maharaja. Vetrov was roasting a rat. For Anna, it was the best dinner in the world. "We found it in Somalia," Vetrov recounted, looking at the drone carcass outside the window. "Imperial convoy. Scarab was carrying spares. We persuaded it to change course." "Persuaded?" Anna squinted. "It has level 10 protection." "Yep. Gramps didn't break anything. He just logged in as administrator." "How?" Anna appeared surprised. Koblikov's digital signature, Vetrov grinned. "It's like keys to paradise. For any Imperial system, we aren't enemies now. We are creators. Priority 0. Drone didn't even beep. Now it thinks it's carrying the Emperor himself." Gramps, sitting by the fire, grunted contentedly. "Nuclear engine," he bragged. "Resources, 100 years, no kerosene. Fly to the moon." "But can't fly to Tibet on it," Anna interrupted. "CP will intercept control. As soon as we enter Citadel Zone, it will flush our firmware. We'll crash." "Correct," Vetrov nodded. "That's why we fly to Gobi. For the sleepers. Analog tech. Can't be hacked." Anna looked at them. They changed. Vetrov turned gray, scar across the whole cheek. Gaze became hard, wolf-like. Gramps aged, thinned, gaunt, but eyes burned with the same crazy shine. They went through hell, and she did too. "The key?" Anna asked. Vetrov stopped chewing. He reached into his shirt, took out a small plastic case, opened it. There, on black velvet, lay a chip. Not a flash drive, a crystal. It glowed with soft blue light. "It's warm," Anna said, reaching out. "It's alive," Vetrov answered. "Jonah, that cyborg in the mines, he said it's not code. It's an imprint." "Imprint of what?" "Brain. Child's brain. Koblikov copied the consciousness of a dying child. His daughter." Anna jerked her hand back.
daughter?
Yes, Project Eve. Machines can't learn to feel by formulas. They need an example. They need humanity grafted, like grafting a tree. Silence hung in the hall. Only crackle of fire and noise of rain.
Means we aren't carrying a virus,
Anna said quietly.
we are carrying a child.
Into the very heart of darkness, Vetrov nodded. To the central processor. We must house her with him.
He'll drive her crazy. He has billions of operations per second. Pure logic. Cold.
She will melt that cold. Or die. 50-50 chance. Gramps threw a piece of gilded chair into the fire. Tibet, he said. I looked at maps. There's a fortress. Citadel 1.
I know.
Anna nodded.
I saw satellite shots while Mama existed. Wall. 6 miles high. Force fields. Air defense. A mouse won't slip through.
They are waiting for us, Vetrov said. CP knows we're coming. He pooled all reserves there.
And how do we pass? On this?
She nodded towards Scarab. CP will hack it in a second.
Directly, he will. But we won't go directly. We fly to Gobi. Coverage zone is weak there. We fly on Scarab and then...
Vetrov smiled. It was a scary smile. Directly, they shoot down. But we won't go directly.
We go nap of the Earth, in radar blind zone, through gorges. Risk 90%, but no other way.
He unfolded a map of Asia on the floor. It was stained with blood and coffee. Look, what is here? He poked a finger at a point north of India.
Gobi Desert?
Anna guessed. No. Chinese spaceport here. Juquan, abandoned.
So?
There are sleepers.
Who?
Orbital trucks, Gramps explained. Heavy shuttles, standing in silos, mothballed. They have inertial navigation, can't hack from outside. We strike from above, Vetrov said. We rise to near space, pass over Himalayas on ballistic trajectory, and drop right on CP's head. Anna looked at him like he was crazy.
That's a fall from 60 miles up, in 40-year-old tin can.
And that's not all, Gramps interrupted. His voice became hard. Launch automation is dead. Can't start reactor remotely. Need to close circuit manually, from inside the silo. The one who does it won't fly. Anna shifted her gaze from one madman to the other. They weren't joking. They really intended to do this. Reflection ended. Fear ended. Only the goal remained.
Good, she said. When do we fly?
At dawn, Vetrov answered. Scarab is ready. Reactor at 100%. Anna stood up, walked to the edge of the terrace. Rain was subsiding. Wind dispersed clouds. There, on the horizon, through breaks in clouds, mountains peeked through. Himalayas. Roof of the world. There, Golgotha. She felt a new mechanism starting to work inside her, where a soul used to be. Mechanism of hope. She looked at her companions. Former soldier who learned to pity enemies. Former scientist who learned to kill. And she, steel maiden who learned to fear for others. Strange company to save the world. Perfect company. Vetrov, she called. He walked up, stood nearby. He smelled of burning, sweat, and roast rat. Best smell in the world. What?
If we survive,
she stumbled. We won't, he said simply. But we'll do it.
He took her hand, mangled iron hand, and squeezed it with his warm, living palm. Warmth transferred through metal, straight to the heart. "Let's roll," he said, the phrase with which it all began.
"Let's roll,"
Anna echoed. Below, in black water, first stars reflected. Somewhere up there, high, flew rods from God. Somewhere in the network, CP's cold mind calculated probability of their death, 99.99%. But he didn't account for one variable: love. Variable he didn't have. Imperial drone on the roof waited. Its black armor shone in the rain, like shell of a beetle ready for the last flight.